Okay, so now the next step is, let's write some code here. I'm going to say here for constant, sorry, dbo is equal to db, and I'll put the name of the database here. In my case, don't forget the S. I think it's called students DB. Yes. Now this line is the equivalent of me doing use students DB, switching to the right database, so I then have access to the right collections. So now I have access to the collection. So make sure you do this, because by default when you log in you'll be at the test database, and of course we don't want the test database. Now that we have access to this, let's do a DBO, which represents the database. I'll say then here collection, and the collection I'm going after is the student collection. Okay, make sure I spell that right. That's the students, so make sure you do that so you get the right one. Okay, I'll then create another variable that represents the students. So be careful on the spelling so nothing goes wrong. Okay, so next thing here, we'll type in DBO. I'm sorry, not DBO. We'll type in here students, which now represents the collection. And just like we did in the Mongo shell, we'll do a find. If I leave the find this way, this will return everything, okay? Which is probably okay. But let's limit the number of rows that we return. Limit. And we're going to limit to about 10 rows for now. Okay. Now, in order to get access to this data, we have to use a callback in this function called toArray. So right here, this is a callback function, and we're going to say here again, I'll say E and result. This E stands for an error if something happens during the student collection, during the find process, where this error is basically during the connection process. So this is also an error, but it's a different kind of error regarding the collection. Okay, so remember I said this is an anonymous function, so we're going to do like that. So this represents the error, this represents the result, this is an arrow function, and here comes the work that we need to do. Now notice I had this DB close. This DB close should actually be in this code right here. So make sure the DB close is inside of this unit of work. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to just test for errors again. We're going to say if E, and E is this error right here. We're going to say throw error. Okay, so let's examine this again. Students collection, which is this. We're going to do a find. We're going to limit the rows to 10 so it doesn't return every row. We're using this function so it returns it back as an array. This toArray takes in an anonymous function, which is from here to here, and it takes in two parameters, the first one being an error, the second one being the results. Okay, so what we're going to do here, let's console log the result so we can see it. Let's run it. I got an error somewhere. Cannot find students. Find is not a collection, is not a method. So it doesn't like what I did here for some reason. Okay, so let us check out what's happening. We've got students. Did I spell students correctly? I did. And then I asked it for a find method, but it doesn't like it. So the problem is somewhere here. Okay. So I have to find out what's going on there. So in the next video, we'll focus to see what the problem is and see how we can figure it out. I'm just going to make sure. Oh, I can see what the problem is, not looking at it, but we'll continue in the next video. All right, with that, good luck and good coding.